Okay, so this video is just a quick recap of the 3 different styles of questions you've seen at SohCahToa. You can either find a side or find an angle in SohCahToa, but there are 3 styles of where the layout of our working changes. So, as I said, it's just a recap. So, just to remind you, trigonometry stems from the Greek words trigonon and metron, meaning triangle and measure. In maths, it's the study between angles and lengths of the sides and triangles. At this stage, we're only looking at right angle triangles. There is further trigonometry with non-right angle triangles to come later on. So, before we start, just a quick reminder of how the triangles are. You should always have a right angle triangle. Whatever is directly across from that will always be your hypotenuse. And we've met that before in Pythagoras as well. It's always your longest side. The one that is opposite your angle, so whether your angle is marked X or whether it's got a number in it, the one that's opposite from that is called opposite. And adjacent means beside, so it's actually beside the angle, but it's really the one that's left over. So when I'm ordering these, when we're drawing a triangle, we're always going to label it first to make sure we choose the correct ratio between sine, cos and tan. I always do it in this order. I do opposite, hypotenuse and adjacent. Adjacent will be the one that's left over. So SohCahToa is not actually a word, it's an acronym, and it helps us remember the formulas. So sine becomes SOH, and here's the formula here for sine. And it's pronounced as so because it's OH, O over H in our fraction. Cos is Ka. Ka gives you the AH in your fraction, A on the top. And Toa, the OA bit gives you OA. So the second 2 letter bits on the SohCahToa basically are your numbers in your fraction from top to bottom, numerator to denominator. So the method we're going to follow is step 1, we tick what we want to know. Technically before this we have to draw the triangle and label it and actually write out SohCahToa. We tick the side we know, we tick the side we want, and then we choose a formula that's got the 2 ticks. Alright, if we don't label it right, we will use the wrong ratio and it could cause a bit of bother and not get you full marks. First example, we have a right angle triangle. We're wanting this side y. Now I've called it y instead of the common thing we always do in maths, which is called the unknown x. I've called it y because our formula has an x in it for the degree already and I didn't want to confuse things. So first thing to label it, opposite my angle is my op, or opposite. You could just use an O if you wanted. Straight across from the right angle, the long side is hype. And the one that's left beside the angle is adjacent. So this one just matches the triangle on the previous side. So we tick the one we want to know. We want to know this side here with the red Y, so we tick opposite. We know the hypotenuse is 22, so we tick off the H's. Here is the formula that's got the 2 ticks, so we're going to use the sine formula. So that stands for sine of our angle is OH, so O over H. Our angle in this case is 36, so we have sine 36 equals, my opposite is y, and my hypotenuse is 22. Remember in this we're trying to work out what y is, so the thing that's in the way of the y is this divide by 22. So in terms of all algebra, what's the opposite of dividing by 22? It's times by 22. So this comes up to the front of the other side and becomes a multiplication. So it's 22 times sine 36 equals y. Type that into your calculator, make sure you're on degree mode, and you will get 12.9, and my units will be centimetres. Now that's to 1 decimal place. I've not specified what I wanted, so 1 decimal place is fine. So that's the first example, that's the nice one. To me that's National 4. Here's another one, still looking for a side. At first glance it looks like it's in the same place as the other one, but it's not. So let's label our triangle. Opposite our angle is the 8. Across from the right angle is the blank one, our hype. So technically we're not going to be using that one by the looks of it. And the one that's left over, the one that's beside the angle, is my adjacent. So we tick what we want adjacent. We tick what we know the opposite, so we tick O for opposite. So this time we're going to be using the TOA formula. Now I mentioned when I was labelling it, there's nothing beside the hype. Which formula doesn't have H in it at all? TOA. So some of you might look at it that way as well. So we're using tan. So tan of our angle So tan x degrees equals OA, so O over A. Put in your angle, it's tan 60 equals, our opposite is 8 and our adjacent is y. Now be careful with the substitution here. You're so used to, in SohCahToa, always having the unknown on the top that we forget it can also be in the bottom. Now in this one there isn't just one step to get there. We can't do anything with this y until it's on the top. So what we're going to do is do what we did last time, bring that y up to the top by cross multiplying. So we've got y times tan 60 equals 8. This is now in the way of y being on its own, so the opposite of times by tan 60 is dividing. So it's going to be 8 over tan 60. Type that into your calculator and I got 4.6 centimetres, again to 1 decimal place. Okay, so there are the two scenarios you can be given for finding the side. The easier one, when it's on your top line, your numerator. Harder one here is when it is on the bottom line. That instantly makes it more difficult because people forget what to do at this stage there, how to rearrange the subject. Now we're going to look at ones for finding an angle. This is where the working changes. Everything at the beginning is still the same. Drawing the triangle, labelling it, choosing the correct ratio. It's our working that will change. So the main difference is the last line. You'll get down to something that looks like this. Sine over your unknown angle equals maybe a fraction. So to find the angle, depending on your calculator, you're going to look for one of these 3 buttons. It's normally up in the very top left, and most calculators nowadays, particularly if you're using a Casio, will use shift. Now the way I teach my class to then put this in our calculator is we type it as shift sign, bracket. The bracket opens up automatically on my calculator, the mode I'm in. 3 divided by 4, close my bracket, and then I press equals. Now the working here, this is a bit that's different. So once you get down to the 3/4, your next line here, we write it as x equals sine with a wee -1. Now that's called the inverse. Okay, that's why we're really pushing that shift button. So it's inverse sine of 3/4. Now that 3/4, you could type that in as 3 divided by 4 in the bracket as well. Okay, so we'll do shift sign bracket 3 divided by 4 or 3/4 and get our answer from there for that one. Okay, and I think maybe in the past, sometimes in my classes, I actually get them to write shift sign there, and it won't let you drop any marks. This is not a markable line, this one here with a wee -1 in it, but technically that's what we should be writing, but with some classes we maybe write it a bit differently. Okay, so let's do that example. Finding the angle. So here's my triangle. Let's label it. Across from the angle is opposite. Across from the right angle is height, and the 8 is the adjacent. So in this case we are ticking our hypotenuse because we know it. We're also ticking our adjacent because we know it. So we're using the cos formula, K this time. So cos over angle equals A over H. Now we don't have an angle to put in, so we leave it as x. So cos x degrees, the degree sign doesn't matter so much here. A over h will be 8 over 11. And this is where the working changed. So we then write x equals inverse cos, or cos with a wee -1, bracket. And you can either write this as 8 divided by 11. Okay, or we could write that as 8 over 11. It's personal choice there, okay? But when you go to the calculator again, you can either use your fraction button or 8 divided by 11 there, you choose. And then, because we're talking about an angle, when you go do that, shift cos of 8 over 11, I get 43 point something, but I always do it to the nearest degree. So it's 43 to the nearest degree. Okay, so that's me reminded you of the 3 examples, and I've done one of each formula, so hopefully that should ring a bell to you. Just to recap, if you're finding a side, that's the one where it will involve some kind of cross multiplying with maybe this one coming up there. If you are doing an angle, that will be the one which involves the shift sign. And that one is always a wee bit harder for people. because you get down to the line where sine x equals your fraction and think, oh god, how do I get x again? So that's when you have to use your shift button. Okay, so hope that's been okay. Bye bye.